So, as obvious, oh, so as obvious from that message, I mean, I opened your most recent message from like something like 30 minutes ago or something. So I'm aware you want to check a few things. So first, yes, I will go ahead and listen to your Bildungsroman lecture later today or tomorrow before posting that discussion 11 about it. And then second update, your message. Yes, thank you very much, by the way, for telling me that I do not need to know the precise page numbers, because for other professors, when they talk about in-text citation, they do not actually know that I have so many disabilities that affect my functioning.
Right.
So unless I put the page numbers, they would see it as plagiarism, which I do not commit. So
right. Yeah. No.
yes, that's why I checked before. I just asked you if it is okay.
Totally. Yeah. No worries at all.
Yes.
No worries.
Yes. So what that means is, for other classes, if I'm listening to textbooks or other external books or websites, I need to re-listen to catch what page it is from, and then
Sure.
yes, thank you for making Light Water for Chocolate reading quiz part 1 later today. And then yes, your email from yesterday, I am confirming. Yes, I should be available at around 2:30 p.m. Hopefully by then you have taken a great care of yourself and eaten your lunch, because I know that you have a meeting beforehand. So I just want to make sure you have enough time.
Yes, that should be fine. That should be good. It will be a day full of meetings, but that's okay. Yeah, awesome. I'm glad that you're available then. That will be really helpful. Let's see. I did already post the like Water for Chocolate first quiz. I need to finish rereading the second half of it before I post the second quiz. I just want to make sure that I'm remembering things correctly. So, but I will do that definitely by the end of the week at the latest. Yeah, cool, good.
Yes, makes sense. So full confession about that that message I sent 2 hours ago is that I was just really afraid of being too direct about it, but my PTSD like is like breaking me down. Like
I'm so sorry.
I'm pretty sure I mean, to some extent, that PTSD, I mean, disproportionately affects women, and also it has a very significant depressive component.
Yes.
So what I do is, whenever I don't function well, I just lie down and then type my answers. I mean, not just for your class, but for actually today I had psychology homework to do, but then because I just do not feel like telling my psychology professor,
Yeah.
it can raise either some concern, or she might feel questionable about me, so I just keep it I just conceal it, and then yes, hopefully she doesn't find out, because I mean it's always been this way. So I have suffered from PTSD my whole life. I mean, even ever since in childhood, and then because I'm highly medicated, even on a high dose of medication, I sometimes sleep through my alarms. So that's what happened earlier today. So like I was like, by 11 a.m. I'm going to Dr. Gravit's office hour, and then at 11:30 I cannot wake up because I'm too depressed, and then stay in bed, and then
you don't have to worry about, making sure that you're always in office hours at the right time. Like don't add that to your stress, right? Like sometimes you just need to sleep in, like you said. Like sometimes you just have to take the time to lay down and take care of yourself. Like I want you to do that. I want you to take care of yourself.
yes.
For sure. Yeah, I'm sorry this day has been hard though. It's just hard to have to sort of deal with so much at once, especially when you're in like 7 classes right now.
Yes, I'm in 7, and then I normally, as you might have figured out about me, I'm very cautious with the impression I leave. So like I said to my psychology professor, I never once mentioned my PTSD. She doesn't know. So
right. Yeah, and it's totally up to you who you disclose that to and who you don't, right? Like if you
yes.
So you shouldn't have to.
I mean, you're correct about it, but I just need to, make sure that I do her homework in a certain way, and then because I was laying down, she wanted to meet me at 3 p.m. today, but I'm not, because definitely I just simply do not have the energy to be awake for next 1 full hour. So I'm just ignoring her request.
That
to be
is
honest.
okay. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I hope you can get some rest and maybe feel better tomorrow, or later today.
Yes. So to be honest, it has always been this way, but how I could manage being in, this semester 7 classes and other semesters, 4 or 5 classes, is that I either always keep it to myself, or because yes, so like when I'm in bed, like today my meltdown is so observable and visible, but I guess I've been dealing with this so long that I most of the times I don't even show symptoms to others, just know myself.
Yeah. Well, you figured out how to, cope with it and sort of get through the episodes, right? So like you said,
Yes.
since it's been happening for so long. But again, it's always okay to take the time for yourself and to not worry about your classes for an hour or two, like that's,
Yes.
that is okay. It's okay. Especially, especially with me in our class, like you've already done most of the work. Like I know that you're good for it. Like we're not working on any hard deadlines right now, so like put it on the back burner if you need to. That's totally fine.
Yes. So in my community college computer technology class earlier this week, I had to take 3 exams. The reason is because my 2 community college classes started on October 16, which
Right.
means that those 2 are accelerated classes that end
Right. So, yeah.
on the same, in the same week as KSU classes. So, like, it's like not just 7 classes, but I'm also in 2 accelerated classes.
Yes.
And then thing about me hiding my symptoms, like what happens when I as a woman with PTSD is, it also has physical components. I'm sure like my body feels like a zombie right now.
Totally. I totally understand. Yeah.
Yes.
I've definitely felt that way before. And like, I also understand, the feeling like you need to sort of hide your symptoms also because as a woman, right, some people might not take you as seriously, right? Like if there's a lot of social stigma around these things. So, sometimes it is easier to sort of keep those things to yourself just to so that other people don't make assumptions about you, right? But it's also good to find people that you can be open and honest with, right? Like those are both really important things, so that you don't have to just continually keep things to yourself because then that can be that can build up, right? That can have negative repercussions too. So it's sort of a difficult situation to navigate.
You're so correct about everything. This reminds me. This reminds me of last week when you talked about the stigma around women who are overweight or obese, because you talked about, I could definitely tell you are empathetic with most people don't understand that being overweight or being obese has medical roots. Like, for example, clinical depression definitely affects weight.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. All kinds of like autoimmune diseases and chronic fatigue, right? There's all kinds of things that can play into that, but yeah.
Fatigue is definitely me because today is the only day I neglected exercise.
Well, that's okay. You can definitely take a break every now and again.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for always being so conscientious to ask me how I'm doing and being so understanding of my various conditions.
Well, you're very welcome. I mean, you're a very hard worker and you're smart and you get you get everything done and to a really good degree. So like, there's no reason not to.
Yes.
I would be even if you weren't doing those things, but especially you're a great student, so I'm not.
Yes. I'm so relieved that it didn't change how you you perceive me, because if I randomly I'm just creating a hypothetical example. So if I randomly tell some other professors about my depressive PTSD, then they might feel questionable about my work or me.
Right. Yeah. They might make some assumptions, but no, that is definitely not the case. I mean, your work speaks for itself. So.
Yes. Thank you very much for. Yes, actually, in your email, you talked about how I'm always kind and upbeat. You are that way too for me.
I try to be. I feel like I'm not always that way, but when it counts, right?
Yes. So, what else? I'm pulling this up because, yes, I came here to work, obviously. And so, I read your, written comments on my Turkey feminism essay, and, I adjusted based on half, but not all. The reason is, I mean, of course, I fully respect and accept your comments, of course, but the issue was I just, it's not about you. I just simply didn't understand what you meant by some of these comments. So, for example, I will go into the example. So, it talked about, I think it was on page 3. So, I will put these 2 quotes above the other 2 pieces of evidence about refugees. This evidence establishes that 1, many refugees live in Istanbul, and 2, almost half are women. So, what do you mean by putting these 2 quotes above the other 2 pieces?
Yeah, good question. So I was reading this paragraph and I was thinking about the sequence of the evidence that you bring in, and I think I would put the highlighted pieces, the ones that I commented on, at the beginning of the paragraph. Not at the very beginning, but like at the beginning of the section on Syrian refugees, right? Because they establish that, like, okay, so you start the paragraph by saying, like, physical abuse of women exemplifies patriarchy in Turkey, and there's a lot of physical abuse that happen, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to female populations as a whole in Turkey, Syrian refugees experience particularly high levels of physical abuse. And then by establishing, you can sort of establish, like, one, there are a lot of Syrian refugees in Turkey to talk about, and then also a lot of them are women, right? Before getting into the details of, like, what their particular suffering looks like, right? You kind of, you talk about how, women, the Syrian refugees frequently cope with kidnapping, marriage with minors, dysfunctional families, and involuntary prostitution, right? And then you're like, also there's a lot of women there, right? I think it would make more sense to state, like, there are a lot of women that are refugees, and then talk about their particular struggles. Yeah? Because, you're sort of establishing the order of operations there, if that makes sense.
Oh, so, yes, Oh.
I think it would be, like, I don't think you would have to do too much to change the wording or anything. I think you could just copy and paste the 2 quotes that I highlighted and put them in between the sentences. In addition to female populations as a whole in Turkey, Syrian refugees experience particularly high levels of physical abuse. I think you put it right after that. Yeah, I think you put it right after that.
Oh. So, yes, I am copying. According to SKG, Turkey owes 3.6 million until SKG goes on to declare blah 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 of Syrian refugees, this entirety. And then now I think I got what you meant by move it. So I notice I noticed that I suddenly jumped from talking about Turkish women abuse, and then this same paragraph went into Syrian refugees. So I think that's what you meant.
Yeah. So, like, okay, you start with Turkish women, then you move to the Syrian refugees, and it's good to sort of establish that Turkey has a Syrian refugee population first before talking about, like, their particular struggles, right? And the evidence that you bring in at the end, right? Turkey hosts 3.6 million Syrian refugees, which is the highest number of any country, and 50% of them are women. Like, that, I think, is like the first thing you need to say about the refugees, right? That they exist and that there are a lot of women.
So oops. Yeah, so it transitions like this. So the first part of, this Syrian refugee paragraph is, in addition to female populations as a whole in Turkey, Syrian refugees experience particularly high levels of physical abuse, and then exposure to unsafe environments, blah, blah, blah. According to SKG, Turkey hosts 3.6 million Syrian refugees, blah, blah, blah. SKG goes on to declare, whereas 3.1% of Syrian refugees reside in temporary shelter centers, blah, blah, blah. And then the next sentence is, women and female minors constitute the majority of refugees. They frequently cope with kidnapping, marriage with minors, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think that order makes more sense.
To close this paragraph about Syrian refugees, the Turkish government does not provide a safe place for them to live, heightening the incidence of physical abuse. Good. So the next so when I said I adjusted half of your based on half of your comments, it means I just did not, my PTSD did not have the energy to do these comments about add explanatory sentences. Those things are easy, so no worries, I will get them done as soon as I can.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, take your time. And also, like I said in the email, there's you don't have to take all these comments. Like, you could say, like, I think this is fine, Professor Rabbit. Like, don't worry, that's up to you. Like, it's, this is your writing, so I don't want to, change things that you think make sense. So, yeah, take or leave whatever. But I'm happy to also, like, clarify anything that I need in the comments for you. Because it can be hard. I remember, like, in grad school, and my advisor would give me inline comments like that. Half the time I'd be like, what do you want me to do? I do not understand. So, yeah, no worries.
Oh, wow, you're so humble, because you, as someone with a PhD, tell me you can just leave my comments off. Like, it sounds very it's unfamiliar for me to hear this, because other professors would get upset if I don't follow their directions.
Yeah, but like, it's a little bit different. Like, it's an honors contract, right? Like, it's your work. like you've done the research, like I haven't done the research. I haven't read all of those papers, so like you know best here is what I'm saying. Like you're the expert on this, and I'm just like I'm more of the expert on writing, you know. So
Yes.
so that's what I mean. Like if there are things that make sense given the literature, you should keep them. You know what I mean?
Yes, makes sense. And also, yeah, as you remember, why I'm doing this honors contract specifically about Turkish culture is because it's the culture in which I've dealt with most of my life. So
exactly, yeah. So like I said, you're the expert here.
Yes, only for this. And just for clarity, am I hopefully this is not an assumption. Am I correct that at the end of this, honors journey, you will actually assign a letter grade on this paper, right?
I can if you want to. I'm happy to do that.
I do not exactly remember, but I think the honors college said something about you will be evaluated by your professor.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that you might get a grade for the honors contract portion of the class, like as a whole, right? So like, yes, I think that I would submit a grade for you like through Owl Express.
Oh, yes.
I think I have to double check on that, but yeah.
So yes, here it is. Just to make things easier. Yes, I'm showing this because those specific comments about my wording, for example, absent-mindedness and reminisce, those kind of things, I changed to other things so you can take a look at it.
Great. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'm happy to look again at that.
Companion. How does this relate to feminism? Specifically, could use one more sentence here. So this was at the end of page 3. close this paragraph about Syrian refugees' need for psychotherapy groups. Second, despite Syrian women. Oh, I found it. So, yes, this was the part where you wanted me to explain how does this relate to something.
Feminism. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is another one of those, like, one more sentence, like, wrap up explanatory things, right? So, like, that's something you can do now or do later, whatever, however you want. Yeah, I was more thinking, like, how does it relate to the paper's topic as a whole? Because you're talking about, like, it's important to acknowledge the, like, evolution of women's liberation, why feminism is so indispensable. Like, I mean, maybe something like, it's important to consider refugee populations because they are, perhaps, like, the most in need of, like, feminist intervention or something like that. So, something that, like, ties it together.
No worries. Whatever I write today during office hour, I promise I will make them sound more professional. No worries. I just wrote because, after writing, it's always easy to fix later.
Yes.
I mean, I find writing easy, so.
Good.
Second, despite. So, opening your comment. This was I really liked your comment about not taking an assumption,
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm obviously not a Turkish born woman, so
Right. I mean, yeah, like, you lived there, which, like, gives you specific experience, for sure, but also, like, I don't think I could speak for all American women, right? Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable saying, like, American women do this, whereas, like, I mean, there's so many different kinds of people that believe different things. Like, at one point we talked about how, like, a lot of women are, still sort of, like, following conservative politics and stuff like that, are not in their best interest, so.
Yes. The hilarious thing about, talking about politics is that those conservative women will never listen to our papers.
Yeah, unfortunately that is true. I wish that they would.
They don't listen simply because our opinions do not align with theirs, so they are stuck with dogmatism. That's hilarious. To begin with, men's physical abuse of women exemplifies patriarchy in Turkey. So,
Oh, there it is. That's right.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
realize.
you are that one, right?
Yes. I didn't realize I already added this sentence from you. You know, these high rates demonstrate the power dynamics. So, oh yes, I remember last week, the other day, I talked about how some of these paragraphs are way too long and some of them are short. So what I was saying was this paragraph specifically, to begin with, this is way too short compared to other paragraphs.
Right. Yeah. Are there? I guess like, is there other evidence of physical abuse from other sources that you could bring in here? You could also just, let's see. I mean, you could also sort of add like a different topic sentence here that's like, because like physical abuse is like what am I trying to say? It's one of the worst forms of like patriarchal power, right? Like it's one of the worst forms that this takes, but it's also one of the most common and one of the most like insidious in terms of like domestic abuse. So like you could say something like, like patriarchy in Turkey takes many forms, and one of the most common and most harmful ones is actual physical abuse of women, right? Like, just to sort of like introduce the topic a little bit. Yeah, especially since you're transitioning from your introduction into the very first topic that you're discussing, you could sort of, lead your reader in a little bit more softly there, I guess.
Yes. I totally get your point. So, yes, by having my first body paragraph explain what physical abuse is, like it has a drastic shock, like
Yeah, just jump right in.
Yes. And here. I will add something between my first and second sentence so that man kicked whipped becomes the third sentence of this paragraph.
That makes sense.
So it is a Hopefully this makes sense. So,
Yeah.
physical violence, unlike other types of abuse, is the most severe form of domestic or familial abuse, and it is a widespread method used by men to justify their lack of anger management. Women, on the other hand, have little to no say in the perpetration of men.
Okay, great. Yeah. I think that makes sense to help you sort of transition a little bit and to fill out that paragraph.
Yes, as you may have noticed, I did not add any in-text citation because this is from me. So back then in psychology of gender class, I learned that only men get to say what angered them, and then they use it against women.
Yep.
But none of my sources talked about, men's anger, because there probably is not a lot of research among Turkish women. So
yeah, I think that makes sense. It's good to sort of bring in your own analysis of those things. I like that.
So after then, that has been resolved, and could revise for clarity. Does this mean by they forgot their appointments? That was on before psychopathology paragraph. So
And this is on page 3, sort of in the middle, in the paragraph that starts, it would be an understatement to say Syrian refugees, etc. Yeah, here we go.
great. Yes, and so I changed it to due to illiteracy in the Turkish language or aversion to meet psychiatric professionals.
Good, but that makes way more sense. Yeah. Excellent.
Yes, it's so easy, but somehow when I first wrote, I somehow said absent-mindedness. It sounded like they are not at all thinking about meeting psychiatrists.
Right, yeah, I was like, so did they just forget to get to go to their appointments? Like, what are they
Yes, absent-mindedness, has a weird connotation. It sounds like they're not thinking about it at all.
Yes, yep. Yep. Yeah, it looks like you've done a pretty good job. Yeah, we talked about that one. Let's see,
Yes. I'm scrolling down.
yeah.
Why is it important to recognize the higher levels of poverty for women? Yes.
Yeah, so just like, in paragraphs that end with evidence from your sources, another sentence that sort of brings us back to the overall purpose of the paper,
Yes.
Yeah.
No worries, I got it.
I figured.
Asserted. Oh, yes, it is here. The former dictates whether or not women maximize their societal presence, and then there. Okay, so this was about Syrian women's high rates of poverty. Acknowledging Syrian women Syrian women in their for them to
Right. So like, yeah, it's important to acknowledge, you know, the limitations that poverty places upon women because they can't, you know, access sort of like better conditions for themselves, right? Like they can't get, you know, relocate for work, they, you know, receiving promotions, like you said, or even like, you know, access to, trying to think, like, you know, like their access to education, their access to resources that would help them sort of out of their circumstances is limited, I guess.
this
Or like at least by their like lack of, you know, like that they don't have like the money to sort of get themselves out of this situation, right? Yeah.
why
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I need to be somewhere by 4. So we could maybe do one more and then have to wrap up for the day. And you need to go rest also.
yes, I totally agree. it was a great decision to ignore my psychology professor. And I will not tell her. I will just be like, sorry, I missed your appointment.
Yeah, that's totally fine. You don't have to disclose what you don't want to, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason, it's different with you and her because, in the minds of psychology professors, all they're thinking about is, some students are, struggling or etc. Like academically or socially or behaviorally. So like, I don't want to raise that risk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes
Yes,
sense.
yes. It's in their mind. So like, I don't want to grab their attention by saying I have a psychiatric condition.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, hopefully they would understand.
Yes. Um, it's the only class I'm honestly, to be honest, I feel comfortable disclosing this to you, but I'm surprised by my psychology professor because she doesn't do anything in the slightest. What I mean is, like, if I either email her or, if I call her for assistance, she just says, I typically do not provide any feedback unless you turn in for your grade. So like it, I cannot tell for sure, like, is it just, one of these rare professors, or do you think most KSU professors just do like that?
It varies. I think that's sort of a little bit more of an old school thing. Yeah, most professors that I know are willing to give feedback, but I know they also, people set boundaries. So every professor sort of makes their own call on like where to draw that line. Some are really strict about it, and some are not at all. So yeah, I think part of it is disciplinary. Like some disciplines are a little bit more harsher than others in that regard, but I think most of it has to do with the individual professor and what they're, like, how comfortable they are, meeting and talking with students. I think a lot of it is sort of being uncomfortable with it.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know.
I agree.
Feeling like, they've done enough already, I guess.
Yes. It's actually their misconception, in my opinion, because there should not be any set limit on how frequently a student reaches out. I'm pretty sure you agree, because like, it doesn't make sense to say the student was being too needy. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, if a student has questions, like, they need to be answered, right?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Cool. Well, it was good to see you, and we'll continue working on the paper, but I'll definitely see you on Thursday. This Thursday.
Yes, Thursday.
Yes. So I'll look forward to that, and I hope that you get some rest.
Yes, I should. Because this is really the only day I showed my meltdown to you.
Well, that's okay.
So other days, like you said in your email, I will always be upbeat. Have that, outward presence.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No worries at all.
Yes. So what happens is, when I meet or talk to other professors, I always give this super bright energy so that they cannot feel what I'm feeling.
Yeah. Sometimes that works, because then you can kind of fake it till you make it, right? You're like, okay, I'm gonna act with energy, and then I'm gonna have energy.
Yes, I'm pretty sure you know.
Sometimes you just have to like feel things,
Yes, you definitely know. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So yes, Western effect was I meant, Western cultures are less likely to be Muslim and they're more likely to lean. I mean, I'm not saying they all, but more likely to lean secular. That's what I meant by Western effect. So I should just change it to something like Western secularism for many years.
Yes, I think that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good work today.
So, yes, good work. I come to your sessions, I mean, at least once per week because I know by the end of the day, you will make me feel better. Even on my darkest or depressive days, it's you.
Oh, well, gosh, you're just so nice. You're the sweetest.
Yes, thank you. And hopefully I am doing the same to you. By the end of, every day, I make you feel more energized.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. So before our, whatever day our next meeting will be, I will make sure that I, fully change based on your comments and also add abstract and keyword like we talked about.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds great.
So on Thursday it's our interview, and then on Friday, are you available?
I actually have a ton of meetings on Friday, so I am probably out for the count on Friday, but we could revisit this probably at the beginning of next week.
No worries. Yes, I can come next week. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.